So I'm doing the work. I'm eating the right foods. I'm working hard. I'm doing all the right things. And most importantly, I'm losing weight, pound after pound after pound. And I use the term most importantly because at the time, that's what I thought was most important. The whole idea was lose weight, be able to fit into clothes that I hadn't worn in a long time, just have more energy overall, and just feel better around my family, feel better about myself, which were all great goals. But as I went along, and you may not know this, but I lost 75 pounds in all. But as I was losing, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 pounds, I realized something, that those pounds lost, that energy gained, that confidence gained, were merely vehicles to something much larger. And at the time, I really didn't know what that was. I didn't know why I was doing this. I mean, I did. It was obviously I wanted to be better as a human being, as a man, as a father, as a husband. I wanted all those things. But at the same time, I knew that my life had even more purpose than that. That I was destined to do greater things. I just didn't know what those greater things were. I can tell you what right now, becoming a health and fitness coach and helping people achieve the best versions of themselves and to change their lives, that was not in the mix. That was not part of the thought process. And if you had told me that back in, say, the first 6 months or so, or even the first year for that matter, that I was going to become a health and fitness coach, that I was going to help lots of people, that I was going to start my own business, that I was going to launch my own podcast, that I was going to co-author a best-selling book, I would have laughed. I would have laughed at you, because none of those things seemed real. Certainly they didn't seem possible, in part because I didn't think that big. I never really ever thought that big. I was always taught to be reasonable, to think reasonably, to make the safe choice, to make the choice that was going to achieve the desired result, which at the time was just to be able to pay the bills and make an honest living, and nothing wrong with any of those things, but we're all destined to be something bigger. Some of us know what that is relatively early in life. Others, like myself, need a little bit longer, as in 2 decades longer, and as in waiting until your mid to late 40s longer to realize what any of that is. And as I went along, I realized I didn't love what I was doing. I was good at it. I was in the newspaper industry. I was a sports writer for 26 years, covered a lot of great events, met a lot of great people, wrote a lot of great stories. I was good at it. I could do it in my sleep. And I think that was part of the appeal to me as the years went by, that I really didn't have to get out of my comfort zone much. That I could essentially put it on autopilot and do a really, really bang up job, because I'd done it for so long and I knew I was good at it. But I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. I knew I wanted to see what else I was capable of, wanted to test myself and push myself beyond the proverbial glass ceiling that we always hear about, that I was very much a proponent of. I wanted to see if I could bust through that thing. And I knew that wasn't going to happen in the career field that I was in, because I had really reached my apex at that point. So I wanted to push myself. And I knew at the time, obviously, health and fitness was my passion. And I knew that I wanted to continue doing that. And I discovered over time, as I was going to the gym more consistently, that the people that I used to watch, that I used to emulate, that I used to mimic, that I used to take bits and pieces of what they were doing and implement them into my own program. Even while I was working with a coach, I wanted to learn more about what I could do for myself. Now, I was the one being emulated. I was the one being mimicked. I was the one people would come to and ask questions. Hey, what were you doing there and why were you doing it? Why does that particular exercise or configuration of exercises work for you? Man, you've lost a lot of weight. What have you been doing? What's been working for you? I was getting asked all those questions by just random people that I, some of whom I had met along the way, being a member of the same gym for several years. Others that I may have recognized by face because I'd seen them in the gym but had never met before, and others just random that I'd never met before at any point in time. And it made me feel good to try to help them, to try to guide them in the right direction. And it was a great feeling having them come back to me and say, hey, I took your advice and it really, really worked. I appreciate it. Thank you. That was a great feeling. I felt like I had succeeded just as much as they did. It was great to play even a small role in their success. So when I decided after about year 24 that I didn't want to do this anymore, I realized I needed to come up with something new. And it took me a long time to figure it out. And oddly enough, and I can chuckle about it now, but part of me wants to slap myself upside the head that I didn't think of this sooner. When I spoke to my wife, when I finally decided now is the time to really break away from the sports reporting industry, the journalism industry, and try to find something new, just trying to figure out what that was, her response was, well, why not health and fitness? You obviously, you're passionate about it. You like helping people. Why not help people do for them what you've been able to accomplish? So what I did was that I signed up for the certification program through an organization called National Academy of Sports Medicine. And I took their online program while I was still working full-time. That was a lot of fun. I hadn't gone to school or done any schooling of really any capacity in a quarter century. I'd graduated college at ripe old age of 21 back in 1993. Now we're talking, it's 2017. And I realized 2017, 2018, when I realized I needed to start making the transition. So I decided to go to school while I was working full time. I would work 6 days a week, and then Sundays would be schoolwork day. I would do everything I need to do during the course of the week and start preparing for the following week because I knew Sunday was really the only day I could do it. And in 4 months, I gained my certification. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was May of 2018, and I went and took the test. It was held on site not far from where we lived, up in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I finished the exam, and I walked out of the exam room, and I sat down in this chair and waited for the person who was in charge of administering the exam. Checked on her computer, which it was probably only about 30 seconds to a minute, felt like an eternity. And she printed out the sheet, and you didn't get your actual test score. You found if you passed or failed. And I passed. And it was the most excited I had been in quite a long time. I actually went out in my car in the parking lot and screamed at the top of my lungs because I was so excited, because I knew something very life-changing was about to happen. Already had happened, passing the exam. But I knew there was more to come. A new chapter in my life was beginning. I didn't know where it was going to take me. And man, did it take me places. And it's taken me places, still does. But at the time, I didn't know where exactly it was going to take me. But I knew one thing for sure. It was time to affect change in my life and not just for me, but for my family as well. And I knew life as I knew it was never going to be the same again.